Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gents, from wherever you're joining us. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Declan Magero. I'm part of the Picha Images team, and welcome to another edition or series of Picha Talks. So Picha Talks are, community meetings that focus on ways we can improve creatives' capacities out there, opportunities, and just getting some insights from industry experts on ways you can make things better for yourself as a photographer, videographer, designer, etc. And today, we will be looking at how to improve your finances as a creative. And we have ourselves a fantastic guest who will, give us some key insights on this. But before that, let me talk a little bit about Picha Images. So Picha Images is a platform that brings together photographers, videographers, designers, creatives, and we train them into proper ways of executing their profession, if it's shooting, if it's videography, and we link them to businesses and opportunities out there so that they can expand their capacities. And this has been an exciting journey so far. We have a budding and growing community of photographers, and we look to expand this even more. And we continue resourcing them with regards to, potential skill capacities, connect them to various industry players for capacity building, so that constantly they can grow in their profession and capacities. So I'd like to invite Jeremy Riro. Jeremy Riro, I've known Jeremy for a while now. He's a young Kenyan, very astute profession who's an expert in finance. He runs his own company, which he'll talk about, that doesn't only run in Nairobi, but he also even runs an office in Kigali, Rwanda, that focus on, I think, East Africa. So Riro has also worked, or rather works in the ecosystem in the region in terms of growing startups. I know he's a member of ASEC. He's also an official of ASEC. He's also an official of Countrywide Hub and a couple other things. So Riro, thanks for agreeing to be part of this edition of Picha Talks. I think this is the 11th edition of Picha Talks. And I don't think I did so much justice to your introduction. So I'll give you a spot here to tell us a little more about yourself.
So thanks, Declan. I think you did over justice on that introduction. Good morning, everyone. Good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Like Declan has already said, my name is Jeremy Riro, and by introduction, I would like to say I'm a venture builder. So my work is to just find ventures across Africa that are looking to scale, and our work is to get into those ventures. I work with the owners of the businesses and help them to develop sustainable business models. As by sustainability, we mean profit-making business models. And then the bigger part of our work then becomes, once we have this sustainable business model, how do we finance it? or how do we fund it to grow? So we do a lot of fundraising support for businesses across the region, and that becomes now what we are mostly known for, the fundraising bit of supporting businesses to access funding from different sources, be it equity, debt, and grants, and anything in between. But behind the fundraising that we do, there's a lot of support to businesses to develop sustainable and scalable business models. So it's about growth, it's about profitability, and it's about helping the continent be self-reliant in the long run. In terms of services being provided here, products being produced here for our own consumption within the continent. And I think the creatives industry has not been in the limelight a lot in the past, but definitely we are tracking what's happening across all different industries, and this is becoming a core component of a development agenda across the continent. It's becoming a key area of focus for policymakers, for industry leaders, and it's being looked at differently now. And I'm glad that we are here to discuss more about with the industry players in the creative space about how we can be financially sustainable and plan our finances well. So without much ado, I think that's who I am. Generally, that's what I do. So the company that I do those things through, the first one is Fire Consult, which is basically a transaction advisory and management consulting company. It does a bulk of the work that I've just mentioned that we do. We have an office in Nairobi and in Kigali also. So we work across the region. And besides that, we run an innovation hub called Fire Labs that is based in Kisii. Again, that is in Kenya. So there is just a matter of getting startups and working with them to build their business models, validate them, go to market, and of course get financing at some point at the end of the tunnel. So that's our work. And of course, there's a bit of creatives that we work with. For those who know Kisii, we have the soapstone. That's where soapstone comes from. So we also have one of our portfolio companies is called Soapstone Gallery. What we're trying to do is to help those young people there who are getting into soapstone carving and business to reach wider markets. So we identify that gap at the hub level, and you're trying to help them fill that gap. So from a creative perspective, that's how we are approaching it. Those guys are artists and they develop very nice carvings. So how can we help them access larger markets? So in small ways here and there, we're involved in the industry, but we look forward to seeing it grow and become better going into the future. So I'll stop at that. And then in case there's any other information that is needed about what I do, where I do it, I think we can tackle it at the question and answer session, so that I don't end up spending so much time talking about myself. It's not about me, it's about what's happening in the creative industry and how can we become better in terms of financial management and planning at an individual level and also at a business level. So I'll stop at that, Declan, and hand it over back to you.
Thanks. Really appreciate for at least that comprehensive introduction of self and what Fire Labs does. And for those listening in and viewing, please, if you do have any question, go ahead and drop us the question in the chat section. We'll have a segment where we'll address all these questions. So starting from a global perspective, Jeremy, you and I have worked a little bit in the startup space. We've been part of conferences where we're advising startups one way or another. And most of the startups are fintech type of startup, agri-tech type of startup. But like you mentioned in the introduction, it's not so easy to find creatives within these spaces. Although you've alluded that this is changing, but I'd be interested for purposes of those viewing, why do you think this hasn't been the case over time?
Well, it goes back to our cultures and how we are brought up. You know, go to school, get a good degree, become a doctor, become a teacher. Especially if you're coming from Kisii, your parents will push you to university and then want you to be a teacher you're coming from some other region, they push you to be a doctor, lawyer, etc. And that creates now the kind of perception that you have to end up in a certain job that is dignified, so to speak. And the rest of the other activities are perceived to be pastime activities, you know. I take photos as a pastime, but I have a full-time job. You know, I do sports as a pastime, but I have a full-time job. So that's how, first of all, the cultural setup that we are in. And then in terms of entrepreneurship, and how we find in the space a lot of tech stuff happening. But the background is, in terms of entrepreneurship, again, culturally, it's not nurtured. We are wired towards finding jobs. But when you go to entrepreneurship, is about, or running your own business in this matter, is about survival. I've lacked options. So I cannot be a doctor, I cannot be a lawyer, I cannot be all those big professions. So, and the job market, I'm not able to get a job, or I've graduated, I have my degree, I cannot get a job. So what do? I try to get into business and create something, provide a service, or do whatever business I can do to get some money for me to continue with my life. So we get out into entrepreneurship out of necessity. And if you go into it out of necessity, again, you find a lot of people failing along the way, which is a discussion for another day. But now when you venture into entrepreneurship again, people are looking at, where can I easily succeed, you know? Yeah. And where is the vibe around financing, scaling? Where am I seeing a lot of people succeeding? For instance, right now, it's all about fintech in Africa. If you're not in fintech and starting a big startup in fintech, all the big money coming to the continent, you're not going to see it. And then that wires people towards, I need to do what everyone else in the ecosystem is doing. So if they're in technology, first of all, everyone is in technology. So you have to do technology. There's something in technology. And then within technology, which is the sector where there's a lot of vibe and hype. And then people narrow down to fintech, and then they do e-commerce and all those kind of things. Now, what that does is it tends to pull everyone towards a certain corner, and it overlooks the society as a whole, because we cannot all be transferring money using different platforms. Yeah, the completeness of the society is, in essence, supposed to take care of all facets of the society, whether it is food, transportation, communication, entertainment. Yeah. All those things are important. And so, in my view, investment should be distributed across all those different aspects of life. And that's where now the creatives now come in. Traditionally, and most of our parents assume that people who go into the creative sector, they have lacked something important to do. So for you, you are like a reject, or you, not necessarily a reject, that's a strong word, but basically you are deemed not to have pursued the right path that the society would have expected you to do. And that being the perception from time before, obviously it takes time to change it. And like I said at the initial opening remarks, that perception is changing, and we are seeing it changing from even a policy level to how even funding is being done. And we are seeing people trying to encourage creatives to come on board. What am I saying? What I'm saying is, last year I was at the Intra-Africa Trade Fair, which was in Durban, South Africa. And we were all there talking about the Africa Free Continental Trade Area, the ACFTA. Yeah. And it was very exciting to realize that we had a whole section, I think they were calling it Canex. I don't remember the full name, but it was all about creatives. The C on the Canex is for creatives. They had a whole pavilion for creatives. We had creatives from across Africa coming and presenting their cases, talking about their business models. We had musicians from across Africa, Nigeria. We had our very own South Soul were there. We had filmmakers coming and discussing the industry. And for me, that was very profound, that in a context where you're discussing development in Africa and the future of Africa, there is a full pavilion set aside day to day with its own full program for the full 5 days of the forum, discussing creatives and it was actually even more important because they were actually the same creatives who are in all the different entertainment section of the even the main auditorium. So it was good to see that it's starting to be recognized as an area where we can have a lot more people getting into. It is also getting funding. There's a whole budget, not budget rather, but funding set aside at the Afrexim Bank. For those who don't know, it is the Africa Export-Import Bank. They have, I think, if I'm not wrong, about 500 million US dollars. It's not, no, it cannot be 50. I think it's 500 million US dollars. They have set aside to try and invest in the, but I'll confirm the number. It's either 50 or 500 million dollars that they have set aside to invest in the creatives sector across Africa, which shows you that from the people who have funding and people who determine policy directions and development agenda of the continent, they're already starting to think about it. I think even in the country, we have a ministry and there's something that is going on around that, and they're trying to push this. So I think I've answered your question in a very long way, but the point I'm trying to make is historically, we have not been so enthusiastic about the creative sector as a business segment that can actually provide sustainable jobs and incomes for individuals and families and households and the society at large. But that conversation is now changing towards us realizing that not everyone can be a doctor, a nurse, a teacher. Some of us are inherently talented in unique ways, could be the best photographer around, or you're good in photography, good in videography, and you don't necessarily need to be in the lab as a lab technician, you know. Could be out there taking the best shots out there and sharing with the world and making a living out of it. So I'll stop at that again, and then I get.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that very contextual answer. It's definitely is an issue that needs to be tackled. There's a lot of wealth and opportunity in the creative industry, and this needs to be tapped into definitely. And for instance, Africa is deeply cultural, is deeply talented, but we see other countries doing so much better in the creative industry compared to Africa, definitely because the industry is way more developed there. So it's a challenge to all of us to try and rise to the fore. Now, if I build this, you know, towards now the specific creative, and for instance, I know you're a creative as well. At least I know you've been playing the saxophone, trying your hand on it at least. So and you were joking that everyone is technically a creative one way or another. Business models are really important in terms of determining how a company grows. And maybe you can speak to the idea of what are some of the insights you can give as far as business models are concerned around creative, specifically videography, photography, designers, and you know, how does that build into financing? Because definitely they're related.
Well, thanks. Business models, I think, like I said in my introduction, that's what we do. How do you build sustainable business models around whatever area or sector you are in? Specifically for the creatives, yeah. Even before we go to the creatives, you know, what's business and how does business run? I think that's a fundamental thing we need to get clear. So a business is simply a profit-seeking enterprise that has identified some need or one gap in the market, and they are satisfying that. People have a need of good quality photos or for their events, whether at home, outside in the society, at work. People want coverage of those events. People want good videos for promotions for their products. People want to archive memories of beautiful events and occasions in their lives. So there's that need. So first of all, you have to, for a business to exist, there must be a need, there must be a gap, or there must be a problem. But technically for creatives, I think you're coming from a point whereby it's not necessarily a problem you're trying to solve, probably there could be a problem you're trying to solve in the context of Picha, the company itself, finding that most creatives don't have this kind of platform where they are trained and capacity build and linked with customers. Now, you're solving a problem, but for the creatives themselves, I think it's a need. We have a need. I want good coverage of my event. I want good coverage of my products and all those kind of things. So you have to identify a need, and there must be customers that are willing and able to pay for your services. And then you must have a price that is competitive in the market that helps you cover your costs and at the same time make some margin on top of that. So whenever you're thinking about a business, it's very fundamental, there must be a need. And that's where we start, because if you start with I have a camera and I now need to go and find customers, then you'll be on the road running for quite a long time before you actually build a business model around it. But if you start with, I know people are taking photos around, people are even using their phones to take photos and videos, and they're editing them. There are a lot of apps that are doing that. But there's this component that all this work doesn't have, you know. Or people are also running their own studios and producing commercials for companies or going to shoot events, etc. But there's this segment of the market that has not been addressed, or there's this value that has not been captured in what is being provided right now. So that's where you start. Any business that does not start with the need or the problem is bound to fail, or even if it succeeds, is bound to not succeed and get as big as you would probably want it to be, or it would end up stagnated at some point. But if you clearly articulate what's the need of the people that I'm targeting, and what's my niche, what is it I'm providing that is unique, and it doesn't have to be an innovation that is out of this world. It could be the same services provided by someone in the Kilimani side of the world, and you become the known person for the Eastland side of this Nairobi. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel sometimes. Innovation is about even introducing a product that exists in the market in another place. So you have to identify which is my market, what's happening within that space in that market, and who are there, who are playing there, and how do I stand out? So once you identify the need and the gap that you're going to fill in, and in this case, I think I've heard Declan talk about, it's about quality and timely delivery of service. If you see that as a gap in the market and you stand out as the person who can do that and do that at a price range that customers are willing to pay for, then you're on a good starting point. So you have to identify your niche market and where you will play and play strong. And number two, once you do that, you have to do your segmentation of the market clearly and how you're going to target them. So how am I going to reach the people that I'm going to take photo shoots for? If you're doing birthday parties and all those kind of things that are more personal and intimate at family level, how do you even know when these people have their birthday parties? Or how do you reach out to these people for them to invite you to do those photo shoots? If you're doing commercials for companies, they want to do advertisement. How do you know who wants to do advertisement when? You need to have a very clear plan around that, and how to reach out to them, how to engage them. And that becomes a very important aspect. Once you have identified the need, the niche market that you want to target, then the next question is, how do I reach them? How do I get to know when they need my service? Or how do I get to pitch to them my value proposition and get them to buy my services? So that's very important for you to define. Once that is done, of course, you'll have to do a very clear aspect of pricing and costing, and then pricing your services, which is now more of the finance side of the story. But that's usually the end bit, because if in the first instance you're not defined your target clients well, you don't know where they are, who they are. Even pricing, you won't know how to price for them. And you won't know the quality they actually want. So you might go there with a camera that has a lens that is not the kind of lens that you would actually need for that kind of shoot. Or you'd go for a product shoot for some company that wants to put their stuff on an e-commerce platform, and probably you don't have the correct lighting or something. So you need first to define your customers, know who they are, know their needs, and how they want their problem solved. And the best and most preferred way to do this is just to go and interact with them and talk to them and know know what they want. Don't create stories in your head and go to them. So once that is clearly defined and you have interacted with them and know what they want, it becomes then very easy for you to design a solution around the gaps that they have identified and told you. And that solutions now becomes better than whatever they have right now. And that's how then it beats the other competitors who might be in the market. And then having figured out all their needs and how they want them solved, now you can come and say, what are the costs that I need to incur? So you start by doing your costing. So I'll probably need a better camera than the one that I have. I'll need a team member who will have to pay as and when we are going to do this work. I'll need maybe lightings. Can I buy them? Should I borrow from a friend or rather hire from a friend? Should I list them? Are there listing options? All those kind of things. Do I need my physical studio or can I be using someone else's studio? And now you start doing all those costing analysis of you first list everything that you need and then you go analyzing, do I need to acquire this full-time if it is human resource or can I get this person as and when I have a gig? If it is an equipment, do I need to buy a camera worth 500,000 Kenyan shillings or are there leasing options around so that I can cut down on the cost? Probably I don't have the 500,000 cash today. Can I probably get it through leasing? Are there leasing options? And then you go line by line looking at all your costs. And then you add the total cost of everything that you're doing, which gives you how much money you actually need to run. And then you look at the other side of, for me to make a profit and be sustainable, that is being profitable, then how much should I charge? And that now goes into the pricing strategy aspect. So I'm talking about so many topics that we could go into deeper details, but at a high level. So there's now the final bit, which is the pricing strategy, which goes into how much do I charge? Of course, there's what the customers are used to paying in the market, is the average costing pricing in the market. You have to know that, you have to research that and know. And then you have to justify why your cost could be probably higher. Are you offering anything that other people are not offering, and so you are charging for that? Or if you want to get into the market with a lower price than the others, can you justify that you're going to be you're going to be profitable still and continue growing with that lower price? But technically, ideally, price cutting is not really a preferred strategy when you're doing your pricing, because in the long run, if you're running a business like we said initially, you're profit sick. You want to maximize your profits any day. So ideally, you should go with the market price. But if you have to go below the market price as an entry strategy into a new market, then at what point do you revise it up? And what will be the potential customer attrition at the point when you are revising the prices up? So most of the time, it's advisable that you go with whatever average market prices are there, so that customers are able to see higher value for the same price that they're getting from elsewhere, and they can come over to your side. So in terms of business modeling, it's a whole session by itself that we could do for 2-3 days, but I'll try to summarize it in the sense of identify the gap or the market or the need that the unique people that you want to do shoots for have, and profile them. Don't say that you do photo shoots for everyone. Yeah, you cannot be doing weddings, birthdays, products, shoots all at the same time. Identify a niche where you are known and where you become popular, or where you have even more strengths. And then once you have identified that niche, look into the needs the people in that niche have, or that market segment have, that customer segment have. Interact with them, get to know their pain points, get to know how they are getting the services currently, and the gaps they see. They'll always talk to you and tell you the gaps that they're seeing. And then from that, identify how we can now work together with them to actually produce a better solution. So if it is quality, timely delivery, and maybe a few other things, work around those and be the person known for that. And then after you have figured out how to provide the best service, if I'm to produce these and give you in 24 hours, so what do I need? There are some things that have to work right. There's a reason why other people go for 3 days. So if I'm shortening the time, there are definitely some resources I need. So what are those resources, and what's the total cost? And then after you have had your costing done clearly, then you add your margin on top of that. Of course, referencing the market rates so that you're not way off the market rates. And that's how you kind of define this now my business model is how I'm working.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I know that was like a steep question given the business modeling and Canvas is just a whole
yeah.
Would take a whole workshop. But you've done a fantastic job in identifying the critical elements that photographers need to look at, videographers, designers. And this is really interesting because I think a lot of creatives usually, I get a lot of creatives saying, I'm not a business person. My talent is to shoot. But I think one cannot escape these questions for you to be able to make sense to make an enterprise out of your art. Then you definitely must be able to think about who's my client, what's my niche, what do I need, how do I cost, how do I price, why do I price the way I do, what market share do I go for, and that kind of element. Those kinds of elements. So these are really important things to know. Even if you're not the business person on the team, it's really important to have a hang of these issues or elements so that you're able to make sense out of them. And sometimes you can also interact with clients and show them the value that you offer versus competitors and others in the market. If a creative came up to you, Jeremy, and say, this is my business, I've been running it for 3 years, I have a team of 3 people, and these are my numbers, and I'm looking for funding. I want to expand my company. I'm looking for funding. I want to fundraise. I wonder what kind of advice would you give them? What would you look for? For instance, if you're like the fundraising agency, what would you really look for to be able to assist them?
Okay, good question.
I think creatives don't know how to approach people like you and what kind of questions to ask. What would that look like?
That's a good question. And actually, it's not only the creatives that are not privy to a lot of what happens in the fundraising space. Most entrepreneurs, actually, you find out here, even the ones that seem to be very successful, they don't really know how the process works, and they come to us and it is too late. So I totally understand them. Even the techies, the fintechs of this world that are raising billions of shillings or tens of millions and hundreds of millions in US dollars. Most of those guys, the first time we interact with them, they really are so much into their technical know-how of coding and developing those platforms. The same case, I would imagine, a creative who is doing design is so much into that and he's so good and improving every day. Videographer is so good in all those, in what they do. Photographer is so nice. They know how to take the right shots in the right places from the right angles. That's what they are really experienced at. And ordinarily that contributes to quality that you talked about. So obviously it's very important to focus a lot of your time on building your expertise and making sure that you produce the best service or product that the customer wants. However, now when you have that very good product, sometimes it's not the best product that actually sells a lot. It's the one that is sold the best, So if you're out there and able to sell, then that's also another skill that we probably will not discuss today, but being able to have that mind of selling and pushing your good products out there is very important. Now, I'm going to jump that and assume you're actually good in what you do and you're good in selling. So you have been known out there, and now Declan's question comes in terms of, I want to scale now, and really this business needs to grow. So how do I go through that process? So I'll keep it short and brief. Fundraising is both hectic and easy. It's hectic if you are not prepared for it. It's easy if you are prepared for it. What do I mean by that? What I mean is preparation means you have your business records in order. So if you're coming to fundraise, and you would like us to work with you to get funding for your business. The process is simple. You have to look at your business. Are you organized as a business in the first place? So first of all, even before you go to are you organized as a business, you'll go to the first question of, is there really a business model working around here? You know, it could be an individual, etc. Do you have a viable, a sustainable and scalable business model? Sustainable in the sense that it's profitable, scalable, it has potential to grow. You see, if you are one photographer who is taking photos for a few friends here and there once in a while, and you're comfortable with that, it's okay. As a third party who wants to put money in your business, then I would be like, at what point do I get my return? If this business is not going to scale and grow beyond locally where it is and beyond the few customers that they're serving, then probably I might not get my return. So you have to have a business model that is profitable and that is going to be scalable so that investors look into your business. Now, at this point, I would like you to shift your mind into the person who is giving you the money. How are they thinking? And that's the easiest way to prepare for fundraising. Because if you think of it from an entrepreneur point of view, if you're good in what you do and you're selling it, then you're already good. But then the investor who is coming to put money in your business, they have a certain mentality. This would be Declan, who has who is an angel investor or running a VC firm, and he has some money that he wants to put in the business. Declan's interest as an investor would be simple. I want a return. I want to give you 10 million Kenya shillings to do the best studio around town. And I want my money back after 3 years. And for every year, I want a 10% return, which is 1 million. And then ultimately you give me back my 10 million. So I've gotten 3 million from you over 3 years and my 10 million. So I'll have 13 million out of my investment in your business. And so what Declan will be thinking as an investor is, when they look at your business, is it able to generate enough money so that he's able to earn the 1 million per year and still get his 10 million out of the business after the 3 years? So when you're thinking about getting funding, don't think of it as my business is running so well, I have these customers and I'm popular here and I love my business, I've worked so hard on it, give me money. Forget about that for a moment and think of this investor, what is going on in their minds when they are giving out the money. So they want a return, full stop. So the investors want a return. So it is up to you now to prove to them that my business can actually give you the return that you want. So that's where now the investor preparedness starts. So the first thing is get into the mindset of an investor. Think of what would be going through their mind. They want a return. And the questions they would ask, they're not passionate about your business the way you are. You have been in your business doing it, is your talent probably, for creatives especially, it's usually like a gift, a talent. So you're so passionate about it, you do it intuitively, and you like it, you love it. So the investor does not come with that kind of thought process. For them, it's hard-cold capitalism. They have money, they want a return, and you have to prove to them with your passion and expertise and your talent, you are able to get customers who are able to pay for the business, for your services. And their money is going to help you move from point A to point B. So having said that, once you have that investor mindset, you stop thinking as an entrepreneur, you're thinking as an investor, you then start interrogating your business. Okay, if I was to be given this 10 million to do my studio and everything else, how would I pay back for this money? The money that I've been given, how would I pay it back at some point? I mean, the 10 million that Declan will give you, probably they don't want the 1 million every year. They just want, by the time the 3 years lapses, you give them 13 million. So how do I build structures? Is the business able to grow and build structures that once it absorbs the 10 million, that will help me generate enough money to be profitable enough for me as the entrepreneur and still have a surplus of 13 million to give back to the investor? So once you start asking yourself those questions, you realize now you have to start thinking, you have to start changing the way you're thinking. Because if you're thinking, okay, I want to grow and I need 10 million to do a studio, now you have to start interrogating yourself, okay, once I have this studio, how does it help me generate more money? And how am I able to generate enough for me so that I make my own profits and I'm still happy as a business owner and still be able to give back the money to the investor when their investment period lapses. You have to think critically about those questions. And so that's, in a nutshell, the fundamental logic. The details to that are many, but that's the fundamental logic that you need to have. What can I do? How have I planned the growth? And first of all, before you even go fundraising, you have to ask yourself, why am I even fundraising? So you have to look at your numbers. The way we say the costing, the pricing, you're already in that business right now. So you definitely know your costs, you know how you're pricing, and you know the profit margins that you make. Probably you're now getting to see that there's a bigger market, and that should be the reason why you now want to fundraise. There's a bigger market out there. And for me to get that bigger market, I need to hire more people. I need a bigger studio. I need more equipment. And you do all that costing, and then you realize I need some 10 million. Then the question you should ask yourself, with this new market that I'm going to capture, am I able to cover all these costs that I'm investing or that I plan to invest for me to capture that market properly? And am I able to generate more money for me to repay this guy? So your fundraising has to be based on the needs of the business. It's not just hearing that, hey, someone in the sector has raised X amount of money. A Flexim Bank have 500 million, so let me apply. No. It's about, do I actually need the money? Because I usually tell businesses the cheapest source of capital is your own profits within your business. If you're able to generate profits and reinvest them in your business, that's the cheapest. Because if you go out there, you get a debt, there's some interest on it, it's expensive. You go out there, you get equity investments. You are giving out a part of shareholding of the company. So if you are making 1 million profit per month and you have given out 50% of the company to someone else, now you'll be making 500,000. But if you're able to reinvest your own profits and still make the million in profit, you keep the whole of it. So there's a cost to shareholding. So you always want to make sure that, first of all, can my business sustain itself? Can I reinvest the money that I have and keep growing? Or if I want to grow faster and there's a new opportunity that I have here that I cannot miss, what's the cost of this capital versus the return that I'm going to get from this new money that I'm going to have? You have to analyze all those numbers, and it's a lot of work. I know it sounds far-fetched, but you have to really think critically from a basic point of view. Am I able to sustain this money that I'm going to get? So after you have figured out that you can actually pay this guy, you have now that the business model makes sense. Basically, that was the first bit. The second bit is business systems and processes. As an investor, I'm not going to invest in a business that is not organized. First of all, I've proven that you have a market, it's going to scale, everything. Okay, I'm able to get my 10 million back. I tick that box. And also get my 3 million after my 3 years. I tick that box. Then I go to the next question. Who am I giving this money to? First of all, you as a person, are you credible enough? Are you disciplined as a business person? So I'll do a due diligence on you to try and understand who you are, because you're not my relative, you're not my friend. And even if you're my friend now, this is business. So I have to know, are you a person of good standing? And then beyond that, you must be in a business. If I'm giving the money to you as a person, because you could be a freelancer, then once I've done basic checks on yourself, and I'm like, this is a person of good standing, he's believable, he's reliable, and then I can advance the money. After I've proven that the business model works, then I'll come to you as an individual or the team or the team that is working in that studio and analyze, are these reliable people, the partners? If you're a business, I would want to know, have you organized your business in a very formal and orderly way? Do you keep your records, financial records? How well do you keep them? Do they represent the true position of the business at any given time? If I asked you for your balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statements, are they up to date? Because those are the documents I'll use to analyze. Are they audited? So I'll use those kind of things to analyze and see, are they serious as a business? Do they keep proper records? Sorry, and this goes even to freelancers. Do you have somewhere you have recorded all your costs or your revenues or your profit? How do you separate personal money and business money? Because that's the biggest challenge for most creatives, separating those two. And If you're able to hack that as a first process in creating credibility for investors to invest in you, you're able to produce a whole report of the business separately and how the business pays you. You have not mixed your monies. So the same for those who have registered businesses or even a business name. Do you have like proper accounts and records? I understand for most creatives, you may not have grown to that level where we have like fully fledged companies running and doing big projects. And so we may not have those audited financials, etc. But at least have properly kept records and that I can look at and be able to analyze the profitability of this business. And that also tells me you're disciplined enough that if you are given more money, you'll be able to plan for it and record all transactions and produce reports that can be used to assess how the business is performing. So having the right structures, having the right financial records is very important before you even think of fundraising. So don't go to anyone looking for funding with a ballpark figure in your head if you have not, first of all, clarified your business model and proven that actually it is scaling and there's a market potential for growing, because it's in that growth that the investor will invest. They'll hope that you grow and pay them back. Number two, make sure before you go to them, you already are sure that your numbers are adding up. You can produce and give them, these are our expenses month by month. These are our revenues. These are the profits. These are how they were distributed. This is what was retained. This is what we have invested in over time. If you are lucky enough and you're able to have gone to the next level, you have your audited financials. That makes the conversation even more easier. Because for these unaudited, there's a huge level of trust that I have to work with before I give you the money. But if you have audited, then as an independent expert, looked at your books and said that they are okay, then I trust that independent expert who is the auditor. Then the other thing I'll have to look at is how do you organize your activities, the bookings, the execution. Those are business operations now. How are they organized? How are they structured? Do you have a systematic way of doing things, or someone just calls you at night and you just go to a gig, you come back, you sleep late, etc., and all those kind of things, and you don't have like a system of this is how the process goes. How do I look for customers? How do I do business development? How do I engage them? At the conversion point, how do I onboard them? How do I execute? How do I do my billing? Do I do 50%, 70% before and then the other later, etc.? It should be structured. I know most might have that in their head, but not written down. But before you come to me as an investor, just put that down in some writing. This is how our operations run. This is how we are organized. Investors will listen to you, but they will also want the documented evidence of systems and processes. How do we do things in this studio or as an individual? So once you show me the operations and systems and processes and how you operate, then now the first thing you proved to me, you have a good business model and it is scalable, there are customers, the market is growing. Number two, you prove to me you keep your financials clearly and they are well organized and in good shape and they can be trusted. And now number three, you are telling me, even internally, we are very organized. This is how our operations run. No, as an outsider, that party looking at your business, I'll be able to understand all those dynamics. And then I'm able to now make a judgment. Okay, they have the right model, is growing, they keep their numbers right. So I'll be able to understand the business performance. And number three, they are very organized. So I now feel like I know the business. I understand how they run. And then from there, I can make my judgment as to whether I'm going to invest or not. Or the other things that we look into legal issues. Do you have any pending legal issues? If you're a business, do you have any other liabilities that are pending that if I invest, I might also be called upon to take care of them, yet I was not there when you're incurring them. There are other things to look at in terms of taxation. Have you been paying the taxes and all those kind of things? Do you have any tax liabilities? But basically those three things, if you have them right, you have your business model clear in terms of how it's going to grow and the market, you prove it is there. And you prove to me that if I give you my money, you are able to repay the money. And then number two, you prove to me that your finances are well kept, and you prove to me that you have the right operations in place. That's a good starting point. So I'll talk with that, Declan.
Amazing. Thanks for touching on those critical matters, the business model, scalability versus sustainability, for touching on issues of business records, really, really crucial. don't just do your business so casually. Have proper records. Get experts to assist you in those records. Have your operations right, and well organized. So those are really, really super crucial steps to getting funding. The good news here is actually that a creative business is a fundable business. It just depends on how it's organized. So before now we go into the questions that have been asked, I have one final question. And if you can take 2 to 3 minutes there's some interesting terms that you've used, things like debt financing, equity, and I'd also like you to mention something about grants also as an opportunity, if you can, clarify those, because I think when you're sitting with investee, and in this case, if it's a creative, and you're saying, all your records look great, I'm interested in your business, and you start negotiating the terms of the investment. So it could be a debt financing, it could be equity-based financing, it could be even a grant situation. So maybe you can just clarify those, and then we'll go into the plenary questions.
Okay, very first. So funding can come in different terms. Could be equity. So let's start with what is considered free. Okay, let me start where I like starting. Are you generating enough resources internally? Are you generating revenue? And from that revenue, are you making a profit? And if you have that profit, don't eat all of it. Have some of it coming back to your business. So that's the easiest and the cheapest. Rather, could not be the easiest, because developing a profitable business model, again, requires a bit of work and skill, but it's the cheapest source of money. Now, when you move from your own profits, you go to the next level of grants. Now, these grants are given to, like right now, I believe there are people who are trying to give grants to the creative sector.
Yeah.
If you look online, you will find some people who are really interested in the creative sector. This is money that is meant to push a certain agenda. Probably people want to push an agenda on African culture or photography, and they want to do videography or something in Africa. They'll give people grants. They'll give the creatives grant to do a movie, a film, or something, or do some photography. Or they want to feature a certain city, and they just give some grants or some element of social impact stuff. They want you to go and do a video in Turkana. So they'll give you some grants, and they're interested in that space. So they can give you some grants to do that kind of work. So grants are usually project-based. They just give you some money to do a certain project that is of interest to the donor. Now, the grant money usually is not refundable back to the donor, but although there are some that you have to refund, some of them are conditional. They are basically zero-rated debt. So, but the grant, the expense comes in terms of the cost of grant is the time that you have to spend doing the proposals, and number two, the time that you have to spend doing the reports, both financial and the narrative. Number three, the other cost is, and for me, this is the most important, they might deviate you from your core business. You want to do photography, you do very good photography and videography for products or for commercials. And then all of a sudden you have been sent to Lake Victoria to do some documentaries on the hyacinth on the lake, which is not your core business. And it's a project that runs probably for 1 year. By the time you come back after 1 year, your clientele and all the brand that you built around product photography and commercials is already eroded in some way or form. So you lose out on that, and you have to catch up again. So for me, that's a cost. It may not be seen directly, but that's a cost. So grants sometimes can tend to push you from your core business. And for me, that's the greatest cost, because reporting and everything else is normal. Even for other investors, you still have to do the reporting. So be wary of, be aware of grants they exist, but also be aware that they can derail you or move you from your focus, which is a huge cost if you are a focused business person. Now, after the grants, then we move on to debt. So debt can have debt that is zero rated if it is very concessional. And this could come from any source. mostly development finance institutions or development partners rather, who want to push the growth of a certain sector, like the creative sector. They will give you very concessional rates. Sometimes you can find it's from government institutions, the youth funds of this world and others that want to probably focus on a certain sector and help it to grow. Unfortunately, you haven't seen a lot of that happening within our country here, but there's that push also to try and have some money going into the creative sector and support it to grow. And I saw some allocation in the budget, in the current budget, towards that space under the Ministry of Sports, I think, and Culture. So there's some budgetary allocation, and they want to work with different institutions to help boost the creative sector. So some of it would probably come as grants, or and the other of it, a part of it could come as maybe debt through the youth funds, where you borrow, you do your projects, and then there's a repayment process. And the intention is to have those funding having concessional terms. Concessional means lower than the normal market rates, so that they encourage people to take part in that sector. And then there's the ordinary debt. Basically, if I'm an investor and I want to maximize my own returns, the same way you want to maximize your own return in your business, I'll come with my debt and give you a rate that is basically market rate, so that after assessing your risk profile, and then you'll be repaying back. Now, the debt has a catch. You need to have some collateral, probably your equipment, etc., or some guarantee from someone else, so that you access it. So the biggest challenge with debt is the collaterals that are needed. And again, borrowing from the Canex event, the event that was last year, most of the creatives from across the continent, the biggest challenge they had is banks don't understand the creative sector. So if you're lucky enough that you walk into your bank and they give you money as a creative, you're one in a million. Banks love collateral, they love products, they love to see the cash flows, and they are risk averse. They're the most risk averse financial institutions we have in this world. So that shouldn't actually shock you when you go to look for funding. They'll want to see the collaterals and securities all in good shape, and they wouldn't really. I think there's an evolution that needs to go into banking, that they should be able to lend based on your cash flow strength. If you're generating enough cash through your gigs, they should be able to structure some funding around based on those cash flows. But that's an evolution that has to happen in the banking sector. But ordinarily, they would want to see collateral, and then they're able to lend. Now, the last one, which is equity. This is where someone comes and invests in your business and they get shares in it. So for this to happen, you cannot be an individual. I'll have to invest in a company. So you cannot come to me as an individual doing freelance and you tell me I'm giving you 50% of my company, so give me 20 million. It has to be a registered company, well structured, and then I get shares in that company, and then in exchange for the money that I put in the company. So that's how the different fundings look like at a high level. So there was the retained earnings, then there's the grants, then there's the debt, which is basically you repay after a certain period of time. You repay the principal, and there's interest that you pay in between. Then there's equity. When I put equity in the company or in your business, then I'll be there for probably 5 years, 10 years, and then I'll sell to another person or you buy me back. And over that time, the difference between debt and equity is there's a defined interest rate that you have to pay me periodically. But for equity, I come in, I give you my 10 million. I'm telling you, after 5 years, I just want to get 50 million out of this business. I just want my money to grow 5 times. So prove to me that the business can grow 5 times into the future after I've put in my money. And then I'll be in good terms with you. And then I give you the money. After 5 years, you give me 50 million. Today I give you 10, you give me 50 million after 5 years. So that's how it looks at a high level. Again, under each of them, there's a lot of complications.
Yes. Wow, thanks.
But in a nutshell.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying at least the categorical differences between every single funding source. So I will jump straight into a few questions that have been asked. And thanks to Picha Images, they've posted a link to Afrexim Bank. It's actually 500 million, I think, dollars. And that's really a good chunk. I think we'll read up more into it and see if it's trickling down into various countries and what are the processes to access these funds. So there's a question from a lady by the name Valentine, and she says, hello, Jeremy. What financial system can I set up to best organize and manage my business?
Okay, that's a good question, Valentine. I would assume you are a freelancer or you are working alone, based on how the question is framed. So the simplest one, before you complicate life, is you can start with a simple Excel, where you track all your costs and all your expenses. But nowadays, there are apps that have been developed that can make your work easier, because Excel, you might forget, or sometimes analyzing the numbers, adding, subtracting, you might end up doing wrong calculations. So there are systems that have been developed. Ultimately, I would recommend you end up in probably QuickBooks, and you can do a QuickBooks online so that all your data is in the cloud. You can access it from wherever you are. You don't have to carry around your laptop. And you can be entering your transactions even through the QuickBooks app. When you're in the field, you have received a check, you record it has been received, you take a photo, you also archive it in the same system. And then it automatically generates all those financial reports for you. So there's QuickBooks, and also it can generate invoices so that you are very formal. You don't text people, send me this 50% discount, 50% deposit needed today via WhatsApp. And then they pay to your M-Pesa, and you eat it, you forget. But when you invoice through a system, you're able to track those transactions, and the system itself generates the report. So I would recommend QuickBooks Online. And it has from basics for individuals to packages for enterprises. So you can always go for the very basic for an individual, and you start there. As your business grows, you buy the next package that has more features. But yes, I would advise you go with QuickBooks Online. It works well. It accepts all the currencies and all those kind of things.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think the second question is from Anne, and I think the question is very much related. Thank you, Jeremy. This is super informative. As a creative, I feel like I'm just bad with money, and majority of my colleagues are in the same boat. What advice would you give for managing what I'm already getting?
Yeah, in terms of financial management, so you already have the money. No one is bad with money. I mean, bad here, you mean you spend it. Money is there to be spent. So, so you're not bad with money. You're good in spending money. But I think I get your point. We need to save and reinvest, and for us to grow. So the first step, Anne, is to separate your personal money and the business money. And it's a discipline you need to have. First of all, you need to have, if you receive your money through M-Pesa, have a different M-Pesa line for the business. And I think Safaricom are good at innovating around those spaces. They came with Pochi la Biashara and all these kind of things. Have a separate way of tracking what you are getting as a business or from your business, or whether it is freelance or you're organized as a business, have a separate way of tracking that. If you can have a bank account, which we highly recommend, open a bank account for the business. Why? First, it helps you to track the money, all the money goes there, helps you become more formal. People are able to pay you in a very formal way. And you start creating your credit profile with your banker, so that in the future, when you want to scale and you want to borrow some 2 million to buy some equipment for you to do some big event or some big shoot somewhere, the bank can actually even start listening to you. Remember, we said they are really apprehensive, but I think the facility from a Afrexim bank, the intention is to trickle down through commercial banks, and then they're able to lend favorably to people within the creative sector. At that point, the only people who will be able to access that money when it trickles down is those who have had a good credit profile. So open a bank account, track your money there, have separate money, have separate way of tracking your M-Pesas so that the money is separated, and then record how the money is coming in and how it's going out. The other thing is also pay yourself. Don't just be picking money from what you get. Have a specific amount, define it. I'm going to be earning 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 from my gig because it's generating X, and be very realistic. Pay yourself out of that business money. Start practicing that. I think it's a mindset thing. First, separate the monies and then pay yourself, and then it will start picking up. It is a discipline that you have to build over time.
Awesome. Fantastic answer there. And Picha Images has been able to collect some questions from our social media handles. And one of it is, do you have any resources that you can recommend for record keeping, budgeting, and all? I think, I don't know if you want to chime in again, but I think you tackled that question on a QuickBooks perspective. The other one is, what makes a business scalable?
Yeah, so for the first question, I think the QuickBooks can help you in recording. It also has a budgeting element, and it generates reports automatically. So try it out. There are also some apps, especially for freelancers who have everything tied around themselves as individuals. There are some financial planning budgeting apps that you can find online. I don't have any that I can like say this is the best amongst all, but as long as it helps you to record your transactions and you're able to see how much you've spent and how much money is going out, and then you're able to ask yourself questions. Why did I get 100,000 last week? And by today, I only have 10,000, you know, and it's able to tell you where the money went. Any app that does that is good enough. Now, what makes a business scalable? These are very simple questions. Scalable is about growing. So what makes your business grow? This is how you grow your business. Number one, you have more customers. And those customers are paying you probably progressively more money. So those are the two things you need to look at. Am I able to get more customers to serve? And are they able to keep paying me and repeating? Are they able first to keep repeating, coming back, the ones that I get? And are they able to pay me more? So for you to scale your business, you should look at, do I have customers today? And how does the customer outlook look into the future? Can I get more customers? Number two, how well can I retain the customers that I get? If I'm able to keep them for longer, then I'm able to earn more money from them. Number three, am I able to sell more to these customers? The same ones that I have. So those three things combined, they make the business model scalable. Getting more customers, keeping them as repeat customers, and being able to sell more to them so that they're able to pay for more products. You could be doing photography or videography, and then you add photography to it, or you could be doing photography, you add videography to the same customer category, and they still keep coming and consuming your services. So that's how you look at it. But the fundamental one is there must be a customer base, and that customer base must be growing. If that answer is maybe or no, then you should start asking whether you should be in that business.
Thank you. And we'll cue the final question, which is a second question from Valentine. And Valentine says, thank you for answering my question, Jeremy. My second question would be, what grants or fellowships are a good fit for my business?
What grants or fellowships are good for my business? I don't have any grants or fellowship, like direct application that I can share links here right now, but I know anything that helps you to build you're a business person. So anything that helps you to build your capacity as a creative. So if there's a grant that helps you to build your capacity or get more customers out there or expose your work, any fellowship or program that helps you to build your capacity in terms of the technical know-how and the skill, anything that helps you to be exposed to potential customers out there is important. Why? Because as a business, as a creative, what I'm buying is your creativity. So anything that enhances that creativity and makes the product of your work better is worth taking time to invest in. And anything that puts you in front of customers, potential customers, or enhances your chances of being in front of your potential customers, again, it helps you to grow. your business. So those are the two criteria. So that's the criteria I would use in sorting out the different programs of fellowship that I would participate in. So even without mentioning any specific one, when you find them, because if you Google, you'll find a lot of them. That's the criteria you should use. Is it helping me become a better person? Or number two, is it helping me to be in front of the potential customers or strategic partners that I would need for me to scale and grow to the next level? So that's the criteria I would use. Top of my head, I think the UK Tech Hub or British Commission, I think they run some program on creatives. You should check them out. And I know they try to work with innovation hubs across the country to attract these creatives and provide trainings to them. So the British Council, if not British Council, UK Tech Hub, one of those two. Check them out. They might be having programs that are relevant.
Amazing. And Picha Images has posted a link where you can access some grant opportunities. And Valentine, don't forget what Jeremy said, that with grants, make sure the grant aligns well with the objectives of your business. Yep. Otherwise, you implement the grant and you lose your business. So never forget that bit. I think I'd love to close this. Jeremy, you can tell that looks like we'll need 4 other sessions to to unpack some of those really, really crucial areas. I think we need a session just to talk about equity, funding, in structure of investment, debt financing, and those kinds of things. So I think we'll definitely be in touch and double check when we can do this so that we can start bringing creatives on board. And for the creatives here, those following online and those who will follow this record in the future, feel free to reach out to Fi Consult. You can reach Jeremy on Twitter at Riro Jeremy. That's his handle, at Riro Jeremy, for advice from a personal perspective for your business, for your freelance, of course, at a little fee there. So thank you very much for joining us. You can follow Picha Images on our social media handles, on Instagram, Picha Images, on Twitter at Picha Images, on Facebook as well, Picha Images. Follow us for more information, future Picha Talks, and a lot of resources. If you're a photographer and you'd like to, or videographer and you'd like to be part of our community, you can register on our website, pichaimages.com, and we'll be able to furnish you with more information and opportunities as well. So Jeremy, I'm gonna give you a chance to say something. And I can see Anne is saying best finance session. Thank you, Jeremy. Valentine is just saying quite insightful. Thank you, Mr. Riro. So what are your parting shots? I know you're a creative. You can tell us a little bit about your journey with playing saxophone. What is your parting shot here?
Well, I'm particularly interested in the creative sector because I believe fundamentally every one of us has a creative element in themselves. And I usually hypothesize that in the event that you get all the money you wanted in this world, what next should you do? You would start exploring who you truly are, and who you truly are is a creative person in you, is the artist in you. You'll either do a sport, you'll do some photography, some videography, something that brings out the creative person in you. And so I totally appreciate the creative sector, and we look forward to seeing how it evolves and how it scales to create more jobs for young people and even make our lives much better. Most importantly, for these people who are in this call today, the creatives within the photography and videography space. Africa has a lot of untold, beautiful, awesome stories. Foreigners have come here and painted this continent in the way they see it. But we have our own way how we see ourselves. We have our own stories. We have our own experiences. And the best way to showcase these is through our art, our creative capabilities, music, drama, film, and all those kind of things. And the photography also comes in, and videography comes in to capture all these components of our cultures and our rich heritage as a continent. So for us to tell the story better and for us to be respected globally, the honors lie with the creatives that we have here. And I think it's a challenge to all of us that as we go out there, let's go out there knowing that we have a huge responsibility. Much as we are making money out of this, we are also shaping the conversations and the perceptions people have about this continent. And my challenge to everyone is don't think local, don't just think about probably Nairobi or Kenya. Think global. I mean, you can think global and act local. Most importantly, you can think Africa. Like I mentioned earlier, Africa is in the process of having one free trade area across all 54, 55 countries. So, and you can Google and read more about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, ACFTA. And as the borders open up, the other day we had DRC joining East Africa community. I mean, that's a market you can go to and provide your services to people there. So think of your market that can be beyond borders. Think of how do you market yourself? How do people find you online? See your quality, because if you provide quality within the right time, I think then the borders should not restrict you from doing your work in Uganda and other places. So that's my challenge to everyone. In terms of my personal pursuits in being an artist, I'm a wannabe in music. I love music. I play the saxophone, and I also play the guitar, which I know Declan also plays. So you'll always find me within the spaces of music, trying to learn a few instruments here and there. I do that at part-time. I'm not a full-time musician, just for my relaxation and just trying to realize the artistic person in me. Yeah, so that's my relationship with art. And of course, I take photos.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Jeremy. That was really fantastic. I personally enjoyed the conversation. It's weird. I thought I was familiar with some of these things, but I still found them really, really insightful. And for more information, go to fieconsult.com, F-I-E consult.com. You will be able to see more that can be of help to you from a practical perspective. Also, for more information on what Picha Images does, go to pichaimages.com and follow us on our social media handles, including YouTube, where this video will be available. Picha Images as well for you, so that you can relearn some more. So thank you, Jeremy. I'm very, very sure we'll definitely have more sessions to be able to go deeper into these discussions. Thank you, everyone, for joining and tuning in.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.